Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe back, and I'm going to do my weekly update for January 9th, 2022. So, again, I had a really strange week due to the fact we all knew I was going to have stresses at work, which I definitely have stresses at work. It was a really long week at work. There's times where I had absolutely nothing I could do and nothing to do. And then there are other times where it got really busy of trying to figure out how to make things work. The translation is not going perfect. It's not going well, but I do have a computer that works. I got another monitor, so I have a double monitor now, which is nice. And I'm really enjoying that, except that I can't get on any computer systems that I need. So like I can get on our old one now and be able to pull information from there, but I don't have a new system yet. They haven't given us access to the new system yet. So that's coming. I think the transition I think they just, because I knew they had a couple weeks, they didn't do anything until they had to, and then everything's just a nightmare. Anyway, it's not going well. So we'll see how this goes. So in some ways I would say that my reading kind of reflected that. I didn't read as much as I normally might. I was very stressed out. By the time I got home, I just watched YouTube or BookTube, and I didn't do a whole lot. I was kind of mentally checking out kind of thing. And then my cat Cooper's just staring at me. What are you doing? Sorry. And then it was just a really long week. And then there's nothing else that was bad that happened or anything. It wasn't like bad. It was stressful, and I think that kind of reflects how my reading kind of went this week. So anyway, so sorry about that. So yes, it's Cooper. Anyway, so I only finished one book this week. I'm hoping that, all things will get better in the next week. I don't see us getting the computer system this next week, so I don't know what I'm going to do for the next week. I don't know but I guess I'm there and they're paying me. I don't know. I mean, I do stuff, but I don't do enough. I feel like I'm sitting there most of the time going, okay, now what? What can I do? What can I really do? So I have to do my files, which I haven't filed in forever. So I'm going to do that this week, but still, who wants to do that? Anyway, so I'm going to talk about the books I read, which is one on the books I'm in the middle of. And then we're just going to assume that the books I talk about that I'm in the middle of, that I will read those this week, because I don't know how I'm in a really weird mood, as I said, reading wise. Yesterday I had this plan. I was going to dive into this one book, and it just didn't happen. I started 3 new books instead. So I'm a little bit away in through, I think, 3 or 4 books. I'm in just a little bit of ways, and I'm just not making much progress. So let's talk about the book that I finished first. So the book I finished was A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozloff. This is the first book in the 9 Realms. This is a 4-book series, fantasy series that came out in 2020. And they came out like right after another, like I think the first 4 months of that year. So I had picked up the first book, I think that year, to try that series. And I finally picked it up last year in 2021 in April. And April is notoriously a bad month for me to be picking up books. I think this is when I was trying to do like a spinner wheel to pick my next fantasy series, which didn't work out for me. Because clearly this one and the next one I started and never finished. So I stopped that. Clearly that doesn't work for me. Although those people who get to use those spinner wheels and TBR games, I'm so just jealous of. It just never works for me. Anyway, so A Queen in Hiding is, as I said, the first book in the series. We're following Queen Cressa. In her kingdom, she is the ruler, and she has an 8-year-old daughter named, how's this said? Cruel? No, that's not right. I don't know how you say her name. It's like, Calora? I don't know. I don't know how to say her last name. I can just read it. Sorry. So they're having trouble politically in their realm with her counselors and stuff. She's finding that they're not liking that she's finally kind of coming into her own, and Cressa wants to do certain things and help her people, and they're like, of course, like the people who have money who don't want to help other people. And so she has that, and then there's another country that's having a plague, and they're blaming her country for it because they sent some food supplies and stuff. And so there's there's this conflict outside, but mostly it's the interior conflict of the country. And so we're getting point of views from the queen, from the princella is what they call the princess in this book, and then some other people who are connected. And then we have some people who are in the country that is willing to go to war, and we have another a scholar in another country who will be affected. And it's really there's a lot of good point of views in here, and there's a lot of good world building. I think this is a great area of this fantasy, and I definitely want to continue on with this series. So I'm going to say I really enjoyed this, but not like, it wasn't like a perfect book. There's a lot of things, and it's not like it just, there's some things just don't click with you like wholeheartedly. But I mean, I did enjoy this a lot, and I definitely am curious to see how it's going to go. So, but I will say my major problem came from the publisher and come from their marketing team. The synopsis on the back of this book is the most spoilery synopsis I have ever read in my whole life. I have read a lot of them for classics that have spoiled stuff, and I hate that. I don't like spoilers for big events. Again, I just want a premise. Just tell me kind of where we're going, and not the whole story. I don't want the whole story. I don't want that. The back of the synopsis doesn't even all happen in this book. I was so angry. The major event on the back of this book is something that doesn't happen until 2/3 through this book. So they could have written in this synopsis so much differently about talking about the queen, and then what she does. She hides her daughter at some point to from their enemies and stuff, and that is a major thing. That the point is the title and the synopsis give away way too much, and I was not happy with that, and I think it ruined a lot of the enjoyment I could have had from this book, because I knew what was going to happen, and I was just sitting there waiting for it, and so the tension was gone. Like, I didn't like, or the shock of when it happened, because it is a really great, the scenes that happen, I mean, you just don't know, and then, but I knew the whole time it was coming, and I think it just ruined for me. So I don't recommend looking at the back of this book. I would go into it blind, just knowing it's about a society that has a queen and her heirs that are the ones in charge of it, and then that they have issues. I don't know how else to say this, but I am beyond, like, I don't ever want to read another Tor synopsis because it's published by Tor on the back of a book ever again, because it was so spoilery. And as I said, even part of this, the second paragraph doesn't happen in this book. I mean, you can see the setup for it, and I know it's coming because I know what this, the next book, what its name is, and I know from this it's gonna happen. But the point is, I shouldn't have to. That should not be happening. I think that this is a major mistake on their part. I think they ruined the experience for me, and I don't know about other people, because I've not seen a lot of people read this since it first came out. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to continue to the next book. It was not, as I said, it was not a favorite. Like, it's, I'm not gearing up like I had to pick up the next one right away. I do want to pick it up in the next couple months, because again, I'm trying to focus on my series, but I also want to try to finish things. So I want to at least give this series another book that I already own. So, I mean, again, I'm hoping I'm going to buy the other two and finish the series off. Or get it from the library. Again, I really enjoyed this. I'm glad I finally read it. I mean, I got through the dreaded April because I just have a problem with that month in reading. But I'm glad I came back and read this. I'm still really kind of pissed off about the end. About the synopsis that gave away stuff. So anyway, but that's all I finished this week. And again, I was lucky I finished that. I finished that on Friday. It took me most of the week to read that. I just didn't read a whole lot every day. It's just, that's kind of how it is. So let's talk about the books I'm in the middle of. We'll talk about the books that I had started earlier this week. Then we'll talk about the 3 I started yesterday. So, again, I am trying to read the Vicom Vicom de Breglion by Alexandre Dumas, translated from the French by David Coward. This is a 19th century novel that's written about the 1660s. And we're following D'Artagnan 30 years after the Three Musketeers. So this is book 3 in the D'Artagnan romances, and he and his pals are in the thick of it again with the politics of this. So what I do is I love about this is there's so much history about the French history of this time period. Again, we're in the 1660s, so it's Louis XIV, I believe. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I don't know a whole lot about that time period, so it's just fun to read about that. The problem is just there's so many notes and so many things that he packs in here. It's so historical in that way. I don't know. I mean, again, he manipulates things, so don't take this as like it's all true, but I think he twists it to what he wants it to be, and I think it's really interesting. So anyway, we're following D'Artagnan, and he is still a musketeer working for the king, and then things start happening politically with England, because at this point Oliver Cromwell's son is now in charge because Oliver has passed, so England's kind of in turmoil, and then Charles II wants again to be king. So so there's like that kind of there's some political that way. So we're going to be doing France and England again. It's going to be interesting. So my problem right now is just my brain doesn't want to read all the historical stuff, I think, and there's just so much packed into here in each chapter. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to assume that this book is going to take me a couple months to read. Because it took me last year, I just didn't pick it up, even though I started it and I meant to finish it. I think I just need to tell myself you can just read a chapter a day. So I'm going to read 1 or 2 chapters a day, whatever I feel like, because the chapters are not super long. I mean, they're usually, I would say they're between 5 to 10 pages sometimes. I mean, they're dense pages, don't get me wrong. Like the book is, not super dense. I mean, there's definitely, but there can be. Point is that I want to make a little progress. I did restart it, starting on the 1st, so I'm back up to almost 90 pages done of the 160 I'd started. So I'm going to, as I said, I want to get through this book. I want to get through the D'Artagnan romances, and it's just plaguing me. But I also have realized I can't just sit and read this. It's just, I don't have the mental capacity to do it for too long. So I think if I just pick a chapter or 2 every day, what I feel like, I'll make progress. And then hopefully by the end of February, I'll be done, is kind of how I'm looking at this. Is that I don't think I'll get it done in January the way I'm going right now. Unless I get to a certain spot and then I just pick it up and I read it. Because that could very well happen. Right now, it's still all the building up. And the characters are just starting to get involved. So we haven't even got the motion of the action adventure part of it. We're still in the early part. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to that book, but I'm also trying to figure out how to not to stress myself out about it. I don't know. So as I said, I'm gonna try to read a chapter or 2 a day and try that for a while. My ebook for this week is going to be Unsold. It's the first book in the Cradle series by Will Wright. So this is a fantasy series that I've heard a lot about from other people on the fantasy booktube channels, and I've always been curious about this. I started this one day when I was sitting, I had my phone and I was stuck somewhere, so I just read the first 13 pages. So I haven't really dove into it. I've only started it. So we find about Lyndon, who is at the time was a child, and he is found to be unsold. So he is marked by his community as unable to do magic of some sort in their community. So he's kind of outside of the different I don't know, groups of the kinds of magic users are there. So and again, he just got, it was page 13, he's just having issues with one of the boys, and then something bad happens, and I was just in the middle of that, and then I stopped, and then I haven't come back to it. But this is going to be, I'm going to take my Kindle for the rest of the week and try to get done, or try to get into this more. Right now it's feeling very YA to me, or very young. So again, he's a teenager by page 13. So I'm not sure how fast he grows up or how much we're I don't know. It's not a very long first book in a fantasy series, so I'm not sure. Again, I don't know enough about it to describe it much more than that. I just know a lot of people love the later books, or, you know, love the series. So I want to give it more of a chance. I just, you know, said I just picked it up one day. So I definitely will continue that. As I said, that'll be I'm going to take my ebook or my Kindle to work this week, and then hopefully I can get at least deeper into it to know if I like it or not, because I don't know. Audiobook wise, I'm listening to The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams, which is the first book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series. So this is one of my favorite series of all time. I'm rereading it because everybody is talking about it, because so many people are reading it recently, and especially on the fantasy channels, I think Mike's Book Reviews is doing it this year. Last year, Rick McNannell was doing a read-along. I almost picked it up last year, but I talked myself out of it. This year it didn't work. Anyway, so my hope is to reread Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by the spring, and then hopefully in the summer reread the two first books in the Last King of Ostenard series before the third book, Into the Narrow Dark, comes out at the end of July, I believe. So, and then book 4 of that series, of that second series, will be, I think, early of the year after. So I want to make sure I've reread them all. They're my favorite. There's no reason for me to, you know, they're just a favorite fantasy series. We're following Simon in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. He is a young 14-year-old who has his coming-of-age story in this, but he gets caught up in a lot of things that are going on in the castle that he grew up in, where the old king is dying. And he's just, I mean, he's such a kid. I mean, you have to, the first part's a little hard that way, but so much stuff happens here, and there's so much packed in here, and I love rereading it because then I see more of those little details that Williams packed in there in the beginning. He's such a good writer. I mean, again, he's one of my favorite authors, and this is one of my favorite series. So I'm listening to an audio right now, which I've never done before for this series. I got it from the library right now, so it's probably going to run out before I get to the end, because I have only read 104 pages, listened to it. So at some point I might be just reading this physically. I think I like the reading physically better, just for me, for a lot of fantasy series, this one included, because there's so many names. But I am enjoying trying it out, the audio I got from the library. So when it disappears, I'll probably be reading it. But I think it's audio. It's Andrew Wincott. And so far pretty good. I'm really enjoying it. It's interesting because I have certain ways I think of how the names are said in my head. And then to hear an audiobook, a narrator say, I'm like, oh, really? Is that how you say that? It's just funny. Anyway, so again, one of my favorite books of all time, favorite series of all time, and I'm rereading that. So on audio. So those are all the books that I kind of started earlier in the week. And then yesterday, again, as I said, I'm just going to just briefly put these up because I don't know a lot about them. I haven't got very far. And the first one is one of the ones on my classics TBR for this year. The posthumous memoirs of Bras Cubas by Machado de Assis. This is a Brazilian classic published in 1881. And they're very, very short chapters. There's like hundreds, there's like 150 chapters, I think, of him talking about his life and different aspects of it. And like, I've only read, I think 6 of the first chapters. And there's some of them are like a page, some are just a couple of pages. I was trying to see if I could. So like this one, like there's like one page is one chapter, and then the other one is maybe 2 or 3 pages. So they're really short chapters, which is nice. But it's talking about his death. So we're going to see how this goes. So far I'm interested. That's about all I know about that one. Oh, it was translated from by, let's see, what's her name? Flora Thompson DeVoe. So far good. I also started Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. So I've read the Twisted Ones and the Hollow Places, and this is a fantasy by her. So I wanted to try it out because I've seen some other people read the series recently on Goodreads and stuff. So we're following Stefan, and he is a paladin for a sect that their god died. And so he was a warrior, a berserker warrior, and it's been 3 years since that happened, and they're just trying to survive kind of thing. And one of the other sects have taken them in and helped them heal as much as they can. And so I think this is fantasy. There's going to be some political stuff, but from what I understand, there is murder, magic, love, and a side of and on the far side of despair. I'm not sure what that means. Anyway, but so far I'm enjoying it. He has met Grace, so I haven't got very far. So right now we're meeting some other rulers and stuff. So anyway, I only got about 60 pages in when I didn't want to read much more. And then I picked up Radiance by Grace Draven. This was, I can't remember the name of the series. I don't think it's in here. Yeah, I know there's like another book after it, I think, or something. Anyway, so I saw this year before last. I don't know. I think I bought it this last year. I'm not positive. I have to go back and look. Anyway, so it is a fantasy romance, and this follows two people who are kind of like, they're forced to marry for an alliance, but again, they're two different species, and they're not, they both don't want to do it, but they don't have a choice. So they find kind of allies with each other, because they're both kind of thrown into this situation because they're the extra heirs or the extra, royals that can be married off for an alliance of some sort. So, and then I think things are going to get a little political, and she, after they're married. So I got about 50 pages into this last night, and I'm really enjoying this. So I'm really, right away I was really enjoying the characters and their connection. So, I mean, again, it's fantasy romance. It's going to be kind of on that end, but I'm enjoying it. So, but anyway, it's another fantasy. I don't know. So those are all the things I'm in the middle of. I don't know. So as I said, this week is going to be, we'll see what happens. I have 2 other books that are sitting beside me on the couch that I really want to start, but I started these other ones. So I'm going to try to finish some of the books I have before I start those, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure. As I said, Vicom de Breglion, I'm going to read a chapter or 2 a day and just try to make it through. I did bring back my board. I'm not sure how much I'm going to use this. The end of the year, I kind of dropped off a little bit there, guys, but I don't know if anybody cares about this anymore. But the only one I get to put on there is I started a series. So I changed the board for just series, and then classics, and then translated nonfiction, historical fiction, my DNFs, rereads, ebooks, and then I'm going to do page count, try to get, again, the bigger books off my TBR, because I was bad last year and did not read many big books at all when I planned to read a lot. So hopefully I'm doing better. I have a couple here. We'll see what happens. So anyway, I'm just going to do the board at least for a little bit longer. I don't know if anybody cares, but that is kind of how that is. So anyway, what are you guys reading? How was your first week back after all the holidays? We'll see how the next week goes. I have no idea how this is all going to go. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm just going to read. And as I said, I've gone full mood read, so no idea how this week will look reading-wise. But whatever, I'll read what I can, and if I don't want to read, then I won't read. But right now, I still want to read. It's just, I keep changing books. Anyways, and I won't read the big book, the one that I really want to get done with. Anyway, tell me how you guys are doing, and I will see you guys later. Bye.